Okay, welcome back. It's COMP123, Lesson 9, Part 5 of Week 9. No, we're going to keep with this one. I'm not doing anything new today. So here's my hello world. I got my one click me button, right? But what if, I think the two things we do with console applications is we take input from the console and we throw things out to the console, right? We actually output to the console. We really don't have an input other than this little click me button, right? So how do I take input from this form? Well, let me go back to my toolbox and let's see if there's other controls here we should explore today. So I wanted to cover like the form today and a couple of controls, few controls. So one of them is the label, the other one is the button. Those are basic controls. And I want to kind of handle some kind of text box. Here's my text box down here. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to drag and drop my text box on top of my label up here. I'm going to align it with the label. Here's my text box. It has this, it looks like this, right? Okay, question. What should I name this thing? Well, it's going to be an input text box, some kind of text box that I'm going to use for my, that I'm going to change my, I want to change my label every time this is the reason why I'm making it. When I type into my text box and I press enter, I want to change my hello world to a custom message, right? Some other message, whatever it's going to be, right? So here's my text control, my text box, right? So I want to make it almost like some kind of message text box or, you know, a greeting text box or something like that, okay? So let's just call it that. So I'm going to go up to the top where it says text box 1. I'm going to change this and it's going to be called greeting, capital G, text box. Everything's capitals, by the way, if you notice. Greeting text box, right? Now I can make this name as long as I want. It's got to be reasonable though, okay? All right, so here's my greeting text box. I got to make a couple of changes to it. I want it to be as long, from a design perspective, I want it to be as long as my hello world. So I'm going to take this handler, this handle on the right-hand side, and drag it all the way to the side of my label. That's how long it's going to be. All right? Okay, this is how long it's going to be, but it really doesn't do anything right now. Okay? This is the first thing. The other thing I wanted to do is, okay, so here's my text box. If I go down, I still want to modify my font and all that stuff because my font now is, again, I'm doing this over and over again. My font, my font, my font. I talked about my font being, you can do the same thing with your fonts on the form side. We'll explore that another day, what it does. But for now, let's make my font 20, right? And my size, if you notice my label grew, my text box, I want to go to Consolus again. So when I type in, it's going to have the same font, same boring font, Consolus. So you notice the actual text box itself grew to accommodate my font. Right? So, again, it kind of grew bigger, right? This is good. That means my font will actually go in here with my little message. Okay, let's just run it like this and see what happens. So I'm not doing anything else. There's nothing programmatically I'm doing. I'm just running at design time. I can still, in my label, my text box will appear, right? And now it won't have any focus. What has focus? What is focus? Right? My focus is on my button. If you notice, my button is like got this little blue line around it. I want this thing here to have focus, but the only way I can do that is actually to move my cursor over it for now, right? If I type a message like, hello, Centennial, right? If I keep typing, it looks like it goes off screen, which is okay. If I press enter, I can keep pressing enter all I want, and it doesn't do anything. Why? Because I don't have an event handler to handle the event I'm trying to kick off for my text box, right? Just like before when I had my click me button and it didn't do anything, every control, for you to make a change to the control, has to have a handler, right? If you don't have a handler for your control, right, or you're not doing anything programmatically to it, right? If I'm not doing anything programmatically to it, then you know what? It's not going to do anything for us. There's a couple of issues here. One, my messages are pretty big, and it's, you know what? It's getting cut off. I don't like that. So I'm going to go back to design time now, and I'm going to make this text box even bigger. So until it stretches to the right side of my screen here. It's still pretty ugly, right? For now, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Let's leave it like this. It's not even centered. If I want to center it, I can just do one of these, right? Approximately. That's one. The other thing is that from a focus perspective, right, we talked about having focus. It doesn't have focus right now. And the focus idea, the idea for focus is, hey, when my form starts, what's the first thing that takes focus? Right? The button. Why? If you look down here inside the control, each control has something called a tab index. See back down here? My tab index is 2, right? I won't make this tab index 0. Let's look at my click me button. My click me button, if I go all the way down to the bottom, my tab index is 1. And if my hello world, my tab index is 0, which means so far my hello world would take the first focus. But my hello world isn't clickable because it's the type of control. My label isn't something I can modify. I can't change my label. I can't click on my label right now. I haven't enabled that to happen, right? Remember, I can enable any kind of interactivity I want with my forms, right? But for now, I've only got interactivity with my click me and a little bit with my this control that I've put into play. So if I want my tab index to change and I want to do it manually, right? I got to change each one in line. So I'm going to change this one to 0. I'm going to go all the way down, right? And I want to change my click me button to 1, which it is already. And my label is going to go to 2. Right? So I've changed all these indexes. Now when I run my code or my label, hey, look, my text box has focus. This is important because this is where I want the user to enter stuff in. Right? Okay, let's click away. Let's go back. Right? So text is one thing from my hello world, but here in my text box, right, I have nothing in my text. I can actually put some text in there like, enter a message. Let's do that. Inside my text property of my text box control, I'm going to put a little message, enter a message down here at the bottom. Right? Okay, cool. Enter a message, right? And when I press start now, I've got my whole message. This is by the default behavior of anything I put into a text box is automatically highlighted, which is good. Which means if I start typing my thing like hello Centennial, it'll go away. Right? Now it still doesn't do anything. I can press enter as many times as I want. It's not going to do anything right now. Okay. So now I'm going to test to see if when I put my click me button, if I click my click me button, I'm going to go back into my code. And here's my code so far. I'm just going to just cancel out of this for now. My code so far says, well, if my hello flag is equal to true, then I'm going to do hello or goodbye, right? But I want to avoid all this. I want to test to see if I've got some text entered into my in my text box. That's the first thing I want to check, right? So now this can propose some issues. How do I check that? Well, I go, here's my new if statement. If, what did I name my text box? I named it something like, greeting text box. There it is, right? If greeting text box dot text, right? That's what is not equal to, star, or not equal to, I can check for whatever I want, right? Not equal to this, my basic message, let's say, or whatever. But let's say I'm going to leave it so it's not null, right? So it's not equal to null. Then I want to say, when I click my button now, I want to do, I want to take my text from my greeting box and put it into my label. So I'm going to say my hello label dot text is equal to my greeting text box dot text. Right? Can I do that? Looks like I can without errors. Okay, this is cool. Else, if it's something else, right? If it is blank, let's say if it is null for some reason, right? If it is null, then do this. So if it's not filled in, then I want you to go back to default behavior, which is hello, goodbye. Okay, let's see if that works. That's kind of weird and funky, and chances are, the way I've written it, I know there's going to be a problem here. All right? Well, let's see. So I'm checking to see, I'm checking not equal to null, an empty string. Okay, let's run that. Enter my message. Click me. Oh, it took enter a message. Why? Because I had put in a default message. Enter a message. When I click my button, right, it puts something. So if I put something in here like hello Centennial now, right, and I click me, hello Centennial will kind of come up here, right? Whatever I put in here, right, I can put whatever I want. You know, like a hello, goodbye. Let's put some funky characters in there. Hello, goodbye. Click me, it'll do that. How about some other characters, like some weird string characters? I'm going to try and put some control characters in here too. Can I put those in there too? Click me. I'll accept everything. Right? Which is good, right? But it accepts it as a string. Remember that, it's just a string that I'm passing from one control to another control. That's all I'm doing. Right? And you can't really break it so much right now. Okay, but there's a problem. What if I take all this away, so there's nothing, and I press click me? Well, it says goodbye, and then it goes back to my hello goodbye behavior. All right, so there's nothing inside there. If I erase it, if I press hello goodbye, it goes back to that. Why? Because that's why I programmed it. Okay, this is cool. Here's the thing I want to do now, though. Right? When I actually click on my text box for the first time and change it, I want that to trigger an event, right? I'm only triggering an event on the button right now. I'm not doing anything else. There's no other events being triggered. How do I do it? And this is where we'll end off today, right? Because I don't want to kill your mind with events, right? Well, I can double click on this, right? If I double click on my control, like this text box, it creates a text changed event, right? That means anytime it's changed, it'll kind of type in. All right, let's do this. So I'm going to say, well, anytime this text is changed, automatically my hello label is going to take on my greeting text box, like this. So I'm going to kind of put this down here. And if you notice, the text changed event, when you double click on a control, it takes the default event behavior and creates its own method, like a method stub that has nothing inside of it, right? So in this case, the text box, the default event for text box is this text changed event. Let's see what this does. So I write this, I right click onto it, and now I'm going to start typing. Now watch. Hello Centennial. It does it automatically. Why? Because every time I type in here, my text is changing, which is triggering my event. My event is constantly being triggered. Every character I type is triggering this thing, right? If I click this button now, is becoming pretty useless, right? I don't need to use this button to change my text here. I've bound the text of my label to what's happening here by using a text change event. Okay, that's cool, right? But that's not what I wanted. That's neat, but it's not what I wanted. I don't want to change my label like that, right? What I wanted was when I press enter for that to happen. Well, remember, let's go back to events. First of all, if you look at these things on the right-hand side here, take a look. In my properties, we're looking at properties here, right? If I look at the little lightning bolt, that's where all the events are, right? And if you look way down here, there's a text changed event down here. And that's the one that's being created. Let me just kind of open this up for you. So here's my lightning bolts, and here's my properties, right? My properties are kind of the properties of my class. The lightning bolt is what I've actually created, which is a text changed event. Well, there's a bunch of other ones, and this menu here of options is context sensitive because every control has slightly different event handlers that you can write, right? Okay, let's take a look at some of them. Accepts tab change, back color change, no. Change UI cues, no. Click, if I click into there, I can make that happen, no. I can control added, no. Dock changed, drag and drop, oh, hey, here's an enter. Does that mean enter, like click enter? No, that means when I enter, I start enter this event here. That's not what I want. We'll check and see what that does though. Margin changed. Mouse capture, mouse click, mouse over, mouse move, mouse over, blah, blah, whatever. A move, if I want to move the whole thing. Apparent changed. So there's a lot of things I can check here, right? Size change, style change, systems colors change, tab index change, tab stop, text align, and so on. Validated, validating, and visible change, visibility. Let's check out this enter event. Let's see what this thing does, okay? So I'm going to double click on enter. If I double click on this control, this event here, it'll actually write another handler, right? But based on the same control. So I got two handlers for the control. I got one of them that says greeting text box dot text change, and the other one that's greeting text box dot enter. If I hover over this, by the way, a little bit, and I try and see what this thing is, right? It doesn't really tell me what this enter event is. Well, let's change the label anyway. So let's say, okay, when I enter here, well, not press enter, when I enter, right, I'm going to change my greeting text box as well. So I'm just using the same code, right? So let's kind of save all this stuff and run it. And when I do that, if I enter here, right, and press enter, well, that doesn't do anything, right? So just enter a message, right? Well, hold on. Let me try that again. Hold on. What happened there? Okay. It says enter a message. That's not what I never did that before. It said hello before, right? Well, you know why? Because from a tab index perspective, I have automatically entered this text box. I'm in it. I've given it focus. That's what the enter event is all about. And so it automatically changed my text to enter message. And then I can write some stuff in here and press enter. But there is no enter key. I'm not being sensitive to my enter key right now in terms of what I've written. And for now, we're going to leave it like that because putting an enter key is a little bit more tricky than other things, right? So if we change, think of it this way. If I change this, I can be sensitive to changing this control to something else. Okay. I think that's where I want to stop today. I'm just going to update. I know you guys got a test as well, so I don't want to run overtime in any way. I want to go to my Team Explorer, and I'm going to just do my saving and syncing. But I think just as a recap of what we've done, today we've talked about UI controls. And this is our first journey into making more complicated UIs. Next week, I'm going to give you your new assignment. It's going to be a UI assignment, something to do with a UI. Make a UI, do something with it, and whatever, right? So added text box. Okay, and I'm going to commit. And again, this is a very silly example, but the example is a couple things to pull out of here. Forms have properties, and every control has properties, right? That's one thing I want you to take away. Every control that you put in there, including the form, has a bunch of events that we're listening for all the time when the forms are running. It's only the ones we handle that we do anything with. The rest are ignored. So there's a lot of messaging going on in the background, but we're ignoring those messages, right? Unless we have a handler that handles the message. Okay? And that's it for me. Let's see you next week.